I was disappointed because even though we don't have an extradition treaty with them, traditionally we have tried to respect if there's a lawbreaker or an alleged lawbreaker in their country. We evaluate it and we try to work with them. They didn't do that with us, and in some ways it's reflective of some underlying challenges that we've had with Russia lately.
Welcome to Opinion Journal. I'm Mary Kissel. That was President Obama commenting last night on the fallout from Russia's decision to give Edward Snowden asylum. Remember, that's the guy who leaked all of that classified information from the NSA to Russia and China. You're looking at him now. Then this morning we woke up and the White House announced that it canceled an upcoming U.S.-Russia bilateral summit. Editorial board member Matt Kaminski joins me now. Matt, do you think this president had it in him to cancel this summit?
Yeah, we weren't sure until this morning. I mean, obviously the pressure had been building for a week since Russia gave Snowden temporary asylum. Even Chuck Schumer, the senior Senate Democrat, called on Obama to do this. And he's done it. I mean, the question now is this a sort of one-off gesture? And this is actually going to sting Putin a lot, because Putin, for all his anti-Americanism, needs the prestige that a summit confers. Or is this part of an overdue correction in American policy toward Russia? Sort
of resetting the U.S.-Russia reset a little bit.
Exactly, yeah.
But we're not kind of canceling all meetings with Russia, correct?
No, there's, I mean, he is, obviously President Obama will go to the St. Petersburg G20 summit, because this was supposed to be a one-day event in Moscow before the summit. This Friday, Chuck Hagel and John Kerry will meet with the Russian foreign and defense ministers for a 2+2 meeting. So, as President Obama said last night on Jay Leno, we want to do business with the Russians. The question is, I mean, it was really, I guess the Snowden affair was in some ways eye-opening for them even, because they've been touting the Russian reset as one of their great foreign policy success stories of the last 4 years, but not only with Snowden, but what Putin's done in Syria. He's really helped Assad hold on and stood in the way of the U.S. doing anything to really end that war. On Iran, haven't been that helpful, but as importantly, domestically, Putin's really cracked down in the last year on human rights.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you raised that, Matt, because it seemed like it took the very public embarrassment of Snowden to open their eyes, despite that litany of problems that they've had now for years with Moscow.
Right. Well, I think President Obama really, when he came in, he said, I want to do arms control deals with Russia. I don't want to have the same problems with Iran and Russia that George Bush had. It was kind of the anti-Bush policy of, I'm going to extend the hand to guys that have been our adversaries. It just hasn't worked out the way they planned, but it's been very hard for them to step away from this. And I don't know if it's a question of the sort of scales falling off the eyes here, or if it's just a concession to political realities, that it just became too, it's frankly just embarrassing to have Putin, sort of poke him in the eye continually. Remember, with Edward Snowden, John Kerry, President Obama, Eric Holder had asked the Russians, just as they'd asked the Chinese, to work with them to get him back to the U.S. to stand trial.
Yeah, well, let's put the White House statement up on the screen so you can see the language here. And I quote, "Following a careful review begun in July, we have reached the conclusion that there's not enough recent progress in our bilateral agenda with Russia to hold a U.S.-Russia summit in early September." So, Matt, I look at that and it doesn't sound like strong language to me. I mean, is this really a big snub? It's
a pretty big snub. I mean, I think this is it's the biggest story in Russia today. It's a pretty big, change of heart from this White House. I mean, the interesting thing is they listed all these other problems, no progress on trade, no progress on missile defense, on arms control. They, fortunately, to their credit, they mentioned human rights and democracy, the shortcomings in Russia in the statement. And as a sort of footnote, they said, well, also the Snowden decision was a quote-unquote factor. Clearly, Snowden was what sort of forced their hand. And I think what is important to see from now on is whether this does mark a change in the U.S. approach toward Vladimir Putin.
Does it mark a change? Does it mark a change? He's not our friend. Editorial board member Matt Kaminski.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.